You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
4 in a row for the Detroit Pistons. You got to love it to close out the first half and head into the All-Star break. 128-110 win over the Chicago Bulls. We'll break it all down. It's a 4-game win streak to close out the first half. Like I mentioned, 6 different Pistons in double figures. We'll tell you all about this one. Of course, wrap it up with our studs and duds. So don't go anywhere. That's all coming up next on a live Locked On Pistons postcast. And we thank you for making the Locked On Pistons postcast your post-game destination. This is the place to be. Locked On Sports Detroit. Make sure you subscribe. Leave us a friendly review as well. We appreciate, and do us one better, tell a friend about it as well, because these Pistons are exciting. They've won 4 in a row. And don't forget, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. That's right. Introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletters, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage, and it's delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. And here we go. Let's begin by tipping it up with a back-to-back win over the Chicago Bulls, or back-to-back wins over the Chicago Bulls. And this night was a little bit different than last night. Of course, last night was in blowout fashion, with the Pistons having their largest lead at a halftime in all of franchise history. So just incredible stuff there last night. But tonight showed what this team is about. You knew the Bulls were going to come back and try and punch the Pistons in the mouth. And in the first quarter, it was a back and forth game, but I like the way the Pistons started this game. Get a dunk from Ausar Thompson, but you knew you were going to get a great effort from the Bulls tonight. But as Greg Kelser put it, and George Blaha, they just aren't that good of a basketball team. And so the Pistons withstood some of the runs that the Bulls went on and outlasted an inferior ball club tonight to earn the 128-110 win in the second night of a back-to-back on the road. All the things. Everybody knows how I feel about that. And if you're new around here, that's one of my big pet peeves in sports, is talking about the second night of a back-to-back. Just go out and play and win. And the Pistons did exactly that. They took care of business against a team that they should have. Now, forgive me if I do sound a little bit down. That's the beauty of a live broadcast. But if you're catching the audio only version, you probably know by now. But just in case you don't, Alex Bregman, the highly sought after free agent coming over in changing gears to the Major League Baseball side of things, just signed with the Boston Red Sox and not the Detroit Tigers. So very, very bummed about that. Apparently, the Tigers offered Alex Bregman quite the deal, but he chose a 3-year deal with the Boston Red Sox with opt-outs after each year. He's going to make about $40 million a year. And this, according to Evan Petzold, who does a great job covering the Detroit Tigers. I absolutely love his work. But according to Evan Petzold, the Tigers offered Bregman a 6-year contract worth more than $170 million with some deferred money, but Bregman picked the Red Sox 3-year, $120 million contract with opt-outs. So there you have it. And you guys know Locked On Sports Detroit is your destination for all things Detroit Pistons, all things Detroit Tigers, all things Detroit Lions, and Michigan Wolverines football. So that's why we're crossing over a little bit here. But let's get back to the good news. I just wanted to mention that, and that is the basketball that the Detroit Pistons are playing. Want to get your comments in today's episode as well. So go ahead and use that comment feature on the live YouTube stream. Let me know what you're thinking, how this one played out in your mind, and what you liked from the performance. We'll talk a little bit later in the program about the balanced attack and the efficiency that the Detroit Pistons showed tonight. And once again, it was the leader of the squad, Cade Cunningham, getting it done on a number of different ways. And I got to go right away to that highlight reel dunk. I mean, MJ-esque at the United Center as well. I'm sure you've seen it by now if you didn't watch it live, but watching it live, I about flew out of my chair. Switching hands mid-air and finishing it with a dunk. I know MJ would have been proud of that one, and I just saw the video replay in the bottom corner of my screen, and what a lift that gave the Pistons as well. And again, in a game that never was really in the balance, but you felt good about the way the Pistons took control in that second quarter. They had an 8-0 run and eventually built the halftime lead up to 7 points. And, again, they're not running away with it, but then you come back in the third. Cade has a big third quarter with 13 points in that third quarter frame to outscore the Bulls by 7. So you lead by 14 going into that fourth quarter. And Chicago never quit. But again, Detroit just able to outlast and outduel an inferior team tonight to get the 29th win of the season. So 29-26, 15-13 on the road. And figuratively speaking here, but it should be everybody by a show of hands. Everybody raise your hand if someone would have said at the All-Star break the Pistons would be 29-26 on the heels of the Milwaukee Bucks gunning for the 5th spot in the Eastern Conference. Everybody would have sold their soul for that, would have signed up for that right away. Okay, maybe I shouldn't joke about selling your soul, but you get the idea. I mean, this Pistons team in year number 1 under JB Bickerstaff, Trajan Langdon, and what he's done in his first year as the general manager of this Detroit Pistons team, what a breath of fresh air. I mean, we are not that far removed from Troy Weaver getting into it with fans at the LCA. I mean, yelling at fans. And now you've got a competent ball club. You've got a team on the rise. You've got a nucleus that has proven they have what it takes to, foundationally speaking, have what it takes to be a winning basketball team in the NBA. And all of that has happened ahead of schedule. It's happened in year 1. And I, for one, again, I know everybody feels this way, am ecstatic with where this team is at heading into the NBA All-Star break. Now, speaking of that, Ausar Thompson is going to play in the Rising Stars Challenge on Friday night, and Cade Cunningham will be involved in the All-Star game on Sunday and the three-point shootout as well on Saturday. So busy weekend for those two guys, but the rest of the Pistons can take some time, well-deserved, get healthy, rest, recuperate, all that stuff that's associated with a little bit of time off, and then come ready to go for that Friday game against the San Antonio Spurs next Friday, of course. But that being said, man, it's hard to not feel anything but pure joy when discussing this Detroit Pistons team and the way they close it. I mean, you hear it all the time. Any coach will tell you it's all about how you finish, and for them to finish this first half on a 4-game win streak and going all the way back even further than that, you had a 4-2 homestand and then the 2 final games on the road trip. So 6 out of their last 8, you feel really, really good about that. And again, it just is music to my ears. It's a joy to watch. This team competes. They're hungry. They play at a high level. They're intense. And is there some growing pains? Sure, absolutely. But for Cade Cunningham to develop into a bona fide superstar, you're seeing the development of Ausar Thompson early in his career, Ron Holland, and then combine that with the gritty. And listen, I'm going to give Isaiah Stewart a compliment because as of late, he has been an asset to the team. He hasn't been a detriment. And Jalen Duren, even again, they talked about it in the postgame a little bit, but his ability to distribute the ball in addition to what he does on that front line for you. So a lot of really, really good things that has this team playing compelling, winning basketball on a night in and night out basis, has them 3 games above 500, has them securely in a playoff spot if the season were to end today. But we know there's a lot of basketball left to stay on the gas. But man, if we're doing progress reports after the first half of the season in year number 1 for JB Bickerstaff, Trajan Langdon, the rest of the Pistons front office, it's a resounding A across the board. So A for JB Bickerstaff, A for the front office, A for the players. And I don't even think that's gassing them up too much because, again, think of where this team was less than a year ago. I mean, it's a 14-win season. It's Troy Weaver screaming at fans at the LCA. It's all kinds of toxicity and really, quite frankly, the characteristics of a losing organization. And it had been that for many, many years. I know that. You know that. We were all subjected to it for so long. So let's enjoy this. And I'm not saying anybody's not, but man, and I even get in this rut sometimes of just win, next game. And I think the All-Star break comes at a good time to really take the pulse and take the temperature of where the team's at right now, which they're in a great spot. And in addition to that, how far they've come in just a short amount of time. So all good things. Now we're going to go over some of the areas in which the Pistons had success this evening. You talk about 30 assists, really, really impressive stuff there. Balanced scoring, all that is coming up next. And of course, we'll wrap it up with studs and duds. So don't go anywhere. Alive, Locked On Pistons postcast continues in just a moment. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find the decluttering process to be refreshing. It helps your space and it helps you get back into a routine. So whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, and it's all within your budget. That's an important part, right, peeps? So I'm looking for furniture right now, and the huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. And let me tell you, I'm pretty picky. My favorite part, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. I love that part. Peace of mind for free delivery. Wayfair's site was so easy to navigate, and I found everything I needed in no time, so I could spend more time researching the X's and O's of the Detroit Pistons, right? There's something for everyone and every style at Wayfair, no matter your space or budget. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We're cruising right along and alive. Locked On Pistons postcast. Jake Rietma with you. Follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. Always tweeting about the Detroit Pistons and everything that's on my mind. So, and I'm a part of Team Foulback. Do kids still say that? I don't think they do. I don't think that's a thing anymore. And I'm showing how old I am. More comments to get into, I should say, because we always love taking the pulse on a live Locked On Pistons postcast here on Locked On Sports Detroit. This is a community that's growing. We're getting closer and closer to 2,000 subscribers. So I need your help. Go ahead and tell a friend to subscribe as well so that those YouTube algorithms can get our content out to more and more people. We begin with Demetrius McNeil. He says, Jake, twice the Pistons over the Bulls. By the way, Detroit owns Chicago, getting closer to the Tigers baseball season. Yes, sir. Absolutely, Demetrius. Completely agree. The Pistons own the Chicago Bulls in the sense that they took the season series as well tonight. It was the fourth and final meeting, and the Pistons have now won 3 of the 4. So the only one the Bulls won was the first meeting back on November 18th, a 122-112 win for Chicago, followed by a 119-127 victory for the Pistons. That was back in February. So they played 3 times in February, and the Pistons got them all 3 times, 132-92 yesterday. It was even more lopsided than that, which is crazy to even say. And then 128-110 here tonight. So great stuff all the way around. Now, where the Pistons had success today, a balanced scoring attack. I talked about Cade Cunningham's 29 points. He was plus 27 for the game. That is insane. 9 of 10 from the stripe, 9 of 19 from the floor. Give him 7 assists as well. 19 from Tobias Harris. He was good when he had to be. 6 of 11. He was plus 17. Ausar Thompson, that's who's becoming a star. I think I saw a comment that said Ausar Thompson's becoming a star. He was plus 23. 8 of 10 from the floor. We know what he can do on the defensive end as well. And my man Mark, exactly, he is on it right now. Let's go to Mark's comment. He says Ausar is becoming a star. He is indeed. And Mark adds, Tobias is playing like I had hoped, and Ausar is becoming a star. Ausar is becoming a star. Ausar is becoming a star. That's a whole mouthful to say, but I completely agree, Mark. And that's, again, I go back to the comments if you're just joining us. What I said in the opening is this team is just so far ahead of where any of us might have envisioned they would be or projected them to be. And it's so refreshing. And when you have such drastic improvements being made in such a short amount of time, a half of a season, you're going to point to a number of different causes, a number of different factors, and the improved play, especially as of late, of Tobias Harris, because he wasn't great to begin the season. It left a lot to be desired, that's for sure. But since the turn of the calendar, the Pistons have been as tough as anybody, and there is a lot to thank for that, especially Tobias Harris being at the top of the list. But Cade Cunningham's all-star, of course, that's part of it. Ausar Thompson is part of it, and the list goes on. The improved play of Jalen Duren, the bench play, it was so good the other night, and again, good tonight. You can always count on Malik Beasley. He comes through with 14 points. Struggled a little bit from the floor, 5 of 10. He wasn't, and I wouldn't even say struggled, but they were keying in on him, not letting him get shots off, and he still goes 4 of 6 from the long line. So good stuff there. 12 points from Isaiah Stewart. He had a couple of dunks that were pretty impressive as well. And I talked about the 30 assists. I think that's a big part of the success and the efficiency that the Pistons had tonight that allowed him to get a lot of clean looks. 30 assists, and as a result, the Pistons shoot it better than 51% from the floor, 10 of 25 from the long line. So all factors contributing to a 128-110 win over the Chicago Bulls. And you look at the Pistons' schedule of who they have coming up after the All-Star break, and we talked about it the other night, but they begin with the Spurs, then on the road against the Hawks before a homestand of 4 games featuring the Clippers, Celtics, Nuggets, and Nets. So obviously 3 tough games there, and you'd feel pretty good about getting a win over the Nets. But that's all far, far in advance, because right now it's about enjoying the progress that has been made, resting up, recovering, and being ready to go in the second half, which is obviously much shorter in terms of number of games than the first half, and gearing up for that playoff push, because right now your Detroit Pistons would firmly be in the NBA playoffs for the first time in way too long, and that is a really, really exciting testament to the progress being made under JB Bickerstaff, under Trajan Langdon, and the rest of the Pistons front office. So right now the Pistons would be a 6th seed, but they are right on the heels of the Milwaukee Bucks, who now the Pistons at 29 and 26, Bucks at 29 and 24, Pacers in that 4th spot, Knicks the 3rd seed. So if the season ended today, the Pistons would play the Knicks, who they've beat twice this year. Celtics at the 2 seed, Cavs the number 1 seed. So it's all about drawing that line and avoiding any of the play-in games that the Heat, Magic, Hawks, and Bulls would all be involved in right now. And so I think if, and again, there's a lot of basketball to be played. We all know that. But if you want to feel good about where the Pistons are at right now, I think we can all agree that this has been drastic improvement, which is great stuff. Mr. My City is up next in the comments. He says, I'm this close to saying what I said no for. This team is special. I've been saying they are good, but man, I'm this close. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. The 2004 Going to Work team is arguably one of the greatest. It probably is the greatest defensive team of all time. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Now, that being said, that team made the trade deadline acquisition of Rasheed Wallace, which, no disrespect to Dennis Schroeder, I like that acquisition, but I think Rasheed Wallace is a hell of a lot more of an impactful acquisition at the deadline than Dennis Schroeder. And again, that's no disrespect to Dennis, because I like that move, but let's pump the brakes. I love the enthusiasm, though, Mr. My City. I always appreciate the support on the Locked On Pistons postcast, and keep the comments coming. All right, Mr. My City, he does. He goes on to say, you can watch these guys on the floor, know exactly when they're about to force a turnover. It's like clockwork. Everyone plays their role. I love to see it. When we play fast paced, it's beautiful. I agree with that. And the Pistons, when they get out and run, I mean, they are as tough as anybody. And so I agree with that sentiment that when they let their defense lead the way and produce scoring opportunities, that is when the Pistons are at their best. 28 fast break points again tonight. In another area, they have the advantage over the Chicago Bulls. So lots more to continue to discuss, which it's always fun when the Pistons are victorious, like they have been the last 4 games and 6 of their last 8. So don't go anywhere. We are going to tie a bow on this one with studs and duds. So make sure you're getting your studs and duds in the comments. I will read the best ones as we continue continue on with the live Locked On Pistons postcast. Back in a moment on Locked On Sports Detroit. This episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by Open Phone. I've been telling you all about Open Phone, and you know by now that running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls all day and night. Who has time for that? Not me, not you. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. And that's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system, and it's designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, people, that's it. Just a few coffees, $15 a month. You can get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business and your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. Efficiency, people, that's the name of the game. If you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. So what are you waiting for? Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. Openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's openphone.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off your first 6 months. Openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have existing phone numbers with another service, don't you worry. Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. All you have to do is go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. Great discussion tonight, and I do appreciate that because what's not to discuss? The Pistons are a wagon, 4 in a row to close out the first half and head into the All-Star break. Before we get to studs and duds, we've got a few more comments to get to here in the comment section. Rock Howard says, I'm curious to see how they use Cade on the All-Star game. I didn't really like the way they drafted the teams. Hopefully Cade can play and shine. Yeah, listen, I appreciate the comment, and it's relevant, it's timely, it's pertinent because the All-Star game is what's next, and Cade should deserve that opportunity to shine on that big stage. But selfishly, as a Detroit Pistons fan first, it's not that I couldn't care less. I just prioritize, staying healthy, not getting in a bad situation in the All-Star game. It would be an added bonus, sure, but I'm not gung-ho and determined for him to be the focal point of the All-Star game. I think he'll do great in the 3-point shooting contest, and he'll have that opportunity to shine. And I hear your comment, Rock, and I agree that he should be afforded that opportunity. He has earned that. But again, I think, and I don't want to speak for every NBA fan, but the All-Star game has lost a lot of its allure for me. One more comment here from Rock Howard. Excited to see Ausar and Amen play on the same team, or Amen, however you want to say it, for the Rising Stars. Yeah, that'll be cool. Of course, the brothers, Amen Thompson and Ausar Thompson, Amen with the Rockets, Ausar with the Detroit Pistons, teaming up in the Rising Stars Challenge. That will be fun. And if they win, whatever team from the Rising Stars Challenge wins, plays in the All-Star game on Sunday with the new format. So that'll be cool. But I'll be tuned in. Well, I'll be tuned into the 3-point shooting contest as well. All right, final segment of the program. It's studs and duds, where we tell you our studs and maybe who's a dud tonight. It's real simple. So go ahead and let me know in the comments your studs and duds. As a team, as a stud, I just want to go with the entire team because, again, second night of a back-to-back, a team you should beat, a team you knew was going to come out angry based on the occurrence of last night and how the Pistons embarrassed the Bulls. And Detroit, like a heavyweight fighter, just stood in there, took it, and knew they were the better team and just outlasted the Bulls until the very end. And that's a sign of maturity. And at times, I've been critical of the maturity and growth of this team. I mean, there's nights where, I think back to one of those games they lost to the Pacers where Tyrese Halliburton and the rest of the Pacers just got inside the heads of Isaiah Stewart and everybody else, and the Pistons were a shell of themselves. You didn't see that tonight. It wasn't chippy. They just went out and took care of business, and that's a sign of growth from the Detroit Pistons. But, of course, individually speaking, Cade Cunningham, give him 29 for the game, 7 assists as well, and 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 5 boards. Cade Cunningham is a stud, and a highlight reel switching hands dunk that I just watched for the 30th time, and it's still ever so impressive. Great work from Cade Cunningham. That's a stud performance. Now, I'm not going to get too negative and spend a lot of time with this, but Ron Holland, kind of a dud tonight. No points, 13 minutes. He was a -1, and him and Simone Fontecchio and a couple other players from the bench were all in the minus category. So you just, and this is coming off a game the night before. The bench was an extreme strength. So I don't want to give it's not a major dud, but we'll give it just kind of a minor. We need better, guys. We need better. Everybody off the bench in the minus category. But again, nothing too detrimental as the Pistons cruise to the 128-110 win. I think you got to give the Bulls a dud performance in these last 2 games just as a team. I mean, Vucevic is about the 21 for him, 23 for Giddey, or I'm sorry, 17 for Giddey. But that being said, the Bulls just, I mean, I know they're tanking and rebuilding and everything, but it's so bizarre how the Windy City and the Chicago Bulls as an organization with such a proud history and such a prestigious organization with such a tradition of winning in the past has just been so brutally bad for so long. They just can't figure it out there in Chicago. But I mean, I'm not here rooting for the Bulls, but as a former employee, I know we've got some new people on here tonight that might not have been on earlier in the season or last night, but I was once a proud intern for the Chicago Bulls and their media team. So there you go. All right. More comments to get into, and we've got a little bit more time for it. Mr. My City says, Detroit, get to LCA and support these guys. These number 5 picks happen for a reason. We have some dogs on our team. They never want to feel what they felt last year again. I'm confident we will be good for years to come. Listen, I said that in the opening that you start to feel really good about the core and the nucleus of this team that has been assembled and will continue to be the identity of this team moving forward. I think those are huge, huge strengths of this team. And I agree with you, Mr. My City. Moses Rios says Beasley going to win the 6th man this year. I think he's certainly a viable candidate. And if I had a vote, he'd get my vote. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but no, you're right. He comes off the bench. And I think he's eligible. I got to double check what the actual requirements are because he started some games, but primarily is a guy that comes off the bench. Mr. My City says, I bet that parlay it's plus 600. Oh, wow. Look at that. Mr. My City. Beasley, 6th man of the year at plus 6,000. How about that, sports fans? There you go. All right. Let's all collectively root for Malik Beasley to be the 6th man of the year, as it will be a nice payday for our guy, Mr. My City. See, that's what it's all about on Locked On Sports. And of course, the Locked On Pistons postcast. We're a community. We're all rooting for you, Mr. My City. Get that parlay or whatever it was, a future on Beasley's 6th man of the year. A lot of love for Malik Beasley here. Troy saying he is an all-star to me. Definitely a volume shooter. Some nights he's got it. There have been nights he doesn't, but make no mistake about it, the Pistons are not where they are tonight. 3 games above 500 heading into the All-Star break without the resurgence of Malik Beasley. So completely agree. A couple more comments. Billy Band says, go Pistons. Shout out to my guy, Billy there. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate everybody tuning in. This is what it's all about. And this is why this opportunity to host the Locked On Sports Detroit channel means so much to me, because I love Detroit sports more than anything. And to see the resurgence and really rejuvenation of this Detroit Pistons franchise and seeing this team built on grit and built on the foundations that embody the city of Detroit means so much to me. So even though it was a tough night seeing Alex Bregman sign with the Boston Red Sox, hey, Detroit will continue to be resilient. Scott Harris and Chris Ilitch offered him a huge deal, and he went with the Boston Red Sox. So what are you going to do? But that being said, it's my friendly reminder that once baseball season starts, we're on here every night after Tigers games. We're going to continue with the Pistons games. And hey, I know we don't do Red Wings postcasts. I've been trying to talk to the bosses about it at Lockdown. We'll see what we can do there. But April in the D is about to be alive and well, like the old Aprils in the D that we used to get to experience. So I can't wait for that. All right. Oh, man. Key Ozzy says it sucks that no one lost that the Pistons needed to lose. What can you do? I don't know what you mean by that. But all right. Good stuff all the way around tonight. I appreciate everybody tuning in. It's always a pleasure. If you missed the live version, make sure you check out the audio version on Locked On Pistons. And as always, we look forward to next time. It's unfortunately, though, going to be a little bit of a break until next time because we've got the All-Star break. So enjoy the All-Star break. Enjoy some time with friends, family, whatever it may be. And we'll continue our hard work and dedication here at Locked On Sports Detroit. And we'll talk to you post-game Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday after the Pistons take on the Spurs. Until then, have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.